Yo! Welcome back to Containing Luxury. On this episode, we're going to be metal framing the back wall that we already framed and then I had to take apart because we had to use different framing. So, let's get started. Alright, so some of you may have already watched our other video. Let me adjust this GoPro a little bit. I'm kneeling down. There we go. Some of you may have already watched our other video of framing the 40-foot container that we have out in San Antonio, Texas. That video was made just a few months ago, and we shared the actual invoice of what we paid to frame out the entire 40-foot high cube container with metal framing on the walls and the entire ceiling, plus all the partition walls. So virtually, it was a lot more framing than what we're framing here. Now, the crazy part is I just came back from the supply house. Sorry, I'm gonna ditch this crazy hairdo. I just came back from the supply house, and I managed to spend $285 to buy one bundle of 1 5/8" metal studs, one bundle of track that are required to go on the floor and the ceiling, and one box of self-tapping screws. That's insane. I don't know if this is still recording. I don't know what just happened there. Camera tripped out on me. I just got the new GoPro 9 and wait, is it 9 or 8? 9, I think. And it's got a screen so I can see myself, so that's kind of cool. But it looks like there's a little bit of a delay. Maybe not, I don't know, possibly. So anyway, I would have probably spent almost double buying the same material at Home Depot, and I can't even get it there because I didn't even have it. So it is absolutely insane. So if we did that same cost video I made about 1.5 years ago of it costing $35,000 to build this container, right now we're going to be way more than that. It's astronomical what's happening in the material world, and if you can even get it. So you know, you're lucky if you can find it, even if you're paying quadruple, triple what it normally costs. So hopefully this will go down and it won't continue happening. But keep in mind, if you're building, you might want to hit pause for a little bit or prepare to spend a lot more money. Now, with all that being said, let's start framing just this rear wall. So that's all. Let's get started getting started. And I've said let's get started like 10 times. So why don't we just go and get started? Yeah, I pretty much lost my mind. So it is what it is. All right, frame away. You might think to yourself, what tools do I need to do some metal framing? Snips, tape measure, and a marker. Pencil is not going to work fantastic on the steel studs because it doesn't really write. So you're going to want like a magic marker. Sometimes I don't even use a marker. I just lay my tape measure out and then just take my snips and just cut it right there. So sometimes we just typically undercut by like 1/4 inch, so I have a little bit of play. And then when I set them in, I screw through the heel of the stud, which I'll show you again in a little bit more detail. Maybe I'll have to put my helmet cam on because I'm filming this by myself. You know, hard times. It's hard times, you know, for us YouTubers, especially construction dudes. You know, we're having to film, we're having to edit, can't pay our bills. We're going to start a YouTube foundation for construction dudes. Just building stuff. All right, let's get serious. Let's get serious. So what I'm doing here in the video is taking my tape measure, hooking it onto the end of the steel stud, then sliding it down to the point of where I want to cut it. Then I just snips it on both sides. Now you don't have to cut all the way through the stud as you see here. I just cut it across the face of both of the sides, leaving the back fully intact.
Then I bend it down a bunch of times like a monkey with a tambourine, and that ends up snapping it off. If I don't keep getting text messages while trying to record this video, it would be amazing. So anyway, then you can just repeat the process now without a tape measure, just taking another steel stud, laying it next to the other steel stud, and using that as a template to cut it off. Now, this might be a little bit more difficult doing it this way. What you want to do is, you'll see I'll take one of the little small chunks this next time. So I can take these two studs, move them out of the way, grab another one that I need to cut, and I don't even need to use one of those other full studs. I can actually just use one of my scrap pieces that I cut off of the other one and cut it right there. So that's a little bit easier than trying to match up the two big pieces of stud. Just use one of your pieces of scrap right there, and you can mark a bunch of them with a marker. Or if you're good with the snips and you know approximately how much you have to cheat that little piece of scrap, you can just put that scrap on there, cut them real quick, bend them, break them off, and you'll repeat this process however many times you have to. So let's just watch me keep doing this for a while. So typically now, keep this in mind as well. While I'm sitting here cutting all of these, I made sure to go against the wall and measure on both ends and the middle, because I don't want to sit here and cut every single one of them at 90 1/4 inches, and then it turns out only that side was 90 1/4. I needed 90 3/4, or I needed 91 over on the other side for some random reason. So you don't want to sit there, measure only in one location, and then cut all of your studs. Make sure you measure a couple of different points, find the average, or you might have to say, hey, you know what? I'm only going to cut these ones up to this point, this size, then I'm going to step it up or step it down. So
we're framing this back wall, we can't use a level unless we've leveled the container. And even if you just leveled the container, like within a couple of days, you have to keep in mind that it might have settled, especially if you just set it on concrete blocks, or it's the first time you set it on the piers. The weight of the container might actually settle that foundation slightly. Now, if you have a slab, probably don't have to worry about that. If you have a stem wall going all the way around the perimeter, probably don't have to worry about settling too much. But if you have just cinder blocks, like in our case, because we're not making a permanent structure where it's staying, we did level it, but it settled on some soft ground here in Florida, and sure enough, it is not level. So we made a couple of adjustments beforehand, so I am in this case able to use the level. Now, if I couldn't use the level because we wanted to get the framing done, but the container wasn't quite level, what I could do is measure off of stationary items that we know are consistent in the manufacturing in the container, such as pulling a measurement all the way off the end to wherever your stud's going to be, all the way off the end at the bottom over to where your stud's going to be, and connect the dots. And in theory, that should end up being level. Because these things are manufactured with like CNC machines, and there's very little human error in the manufacturing of a container. They're super, super consistent. So if you use those fixed dimensions to pull measurements to those marks, you can frame this when it's not level. But don't use level if it's not level, because then you're going to level it afterwards, and then what do you know? You're like, why is my window way out of level, or that frame or that wall or whatever? So keep that in mind. It is so hot in here. Florida, you're doing me wrong right now. I'm like drenched. But, well, now that I look like I peed myself, if I could pee out my legs. I need a haircut. Look like I just fell in a pool and got electrocuted at the same time, but mission accomplished on this wall. It is super hot in here, ridiculously toasty, but I got one more stud I got to put right back here just to get my 16 on center of what my layout I was looking for. I also made sure to put one on the edge of where the shower pan's gonna go, so that when I put in a glass door, or if I want to put in a glass door down the road, even if I'm putting a shower curtain for right now, I have that backer right there so I can screw into that. So that's all the stuff you want to think about when you're doing your framing layouts, is making sure that you have backer. Sometimes you'll install some plywood in that wall. If you're mounting some cabinets to the wall or something, you just want to make sure you have something solid to screw to. So keep all that stuff in mind. You put any 2x4 bracing or plywood just in case, wherever you need it. Even if you don't think you're going to do it, maybe it's a possibility, throw it in the wall now. It's not that big of a deal, and it will be there for the future if your plans change. So that's about it for the framing. I know we didn't frame a lot, but you kind of get an idea, or more so now than ever. I have heat stroke, that's why I can't speak. So anyway, we hope this video has been informative. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Containing Luxury and my heat stroke, we out. The things I do for these screws. Times are tough.